And OFP today is La Vendedora de Mangos que pose pinturas de Vango, Light_VIP. How we doing, Light?
What's up, Yaku? It is great to be back 2 days in a row here with WTL. As you were saying, we have already had quite a lot of big matches going on here, and more of them will continue. It's great to have you back, Yaku. It's great to be here. Another day of World Team League.
Yeah, another day, and one that's going to start with a match that hopefully isn't too confusing. Starlight Twinkle, SLT, going up against the Starving Camels in SSLT.
SSLT?
LT?
Not confusing at shaking my head. But yeah, we do have a bit of a banger of a first round match. You can see the lineups here before us. Starlight Twinkle versus SSLT. We've got Spirit going up against TooDming, followed by JoliwaLoves against Silky, and we end it all with Cham versus Firefly.
Overall, a very Zerg heavy match coming out today.
Oh, that's why Asher not here.
Yeah.
Asher refused, but he saw all the Zergs that I'm done. I'm out. The Lunkers already scarred me last night. I don't want to see that again.
Oh. Unless Piotr has something to say about it, and it going over to TooDming. Nice.
Yeah, Piotr, he also had a pretty well-rounded stat score there. You know, he is apparently a B-class player. He's got a lot of 9s. He's got a decent amount of 8s as well. I do think they have leveled him up since last season. I think they had doxed him a little bit last season, like doxed some of those points, but they have kind of given him a lot of the credit he deserves here. I feel like Spirit has really improved over the past 6 months. Like this year specifically, he's been on fire.
Yeah, I think they docked a few of his points from some of his more from some of these aspects that were a little bit too much, but like you said, kind of rounded him off a little bit. I do like that they recognize that strategy is the name of this game. And speaking of which, in the top left-hand corner of the map, representing SLT, got Spirit.
And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Dragon Scales representing SSLT, it is TooDming.
Already lining them up.
Yeah, here we go. So we got the Twinkles of the Stars going up against the Starving Camels here. Shout out to, of course, the player cams as well. We can see that whatever is behind TooDming is censored, so we don't get banned.
Yep, exactly. It's sensitive information.
It's the waifus. The waifus are back there.
That's really what it is. It's the waifus that aren't from Hyperglyph is what it is.
True. We only have one brand of Hyperglyph waifus. And speaking of Hyperglyph, shout out to the sponsors for WTL. We got Doyu, Hyperglyph, TGI Fridays, Triu.
Fridays?
Yeah, TGIF. And Rio. Oh, beautiful.
All the waifus. I forget what Rio does, but is that the one responsible for... No. That's not the one responsible for Genshin Impact, is it?
Rio, I don't believe the devs were from Rio. I don't believe, but if you remember, the ad coming into the broadcast, the energy drink.
It's
ad,
the energy drink.
With
there we go. It's the energy waifus.
Yeah, there you go. So you have enough energy for the waifus.
Exactly. So I have him together with Hyperglyph.
There you go, mate. There you go. So, yeah, of course, shout out to the sponsors. A little bit smudged that we don't have Hojo this week. Hojo this season. Hojo. They were straight up hands
the delivery
down.
service, yeah. They had the best ads.
They had the best ads, 100%, mate, 100%. So it's a bit sad that they're not going to be a part of this season, but regardless, there's plenty of support going on here for WTL, and this is a matchup that we've been really looking forward to be honest. Oh my god, as Spirits having some fun here, shutting down that drone.
An absolute bully. Just did not at all allow that drone to get out of there. You have to block it. If it ever tries to morph into something to stay alive, you gotta take it down. You gotta block the gas, and that actually does do a lot. It it secures a little bit of early game map control here for Spirit, and it gets a little bit more of a delay here of the third base for TooDming.
Yeah, honestly, a really great start already for Spirit. We can see him leading into something else here. He didn't skip his Reaper as we saw, but he is going into a faster third CC before Starport. So a very economic build from Spirit, which is kind of what we expect to be seeing. He's not the cheesiest, most aggressive of players, especially in this matchup. He's all about the macro. It's all about the economy.
Well, at the start, anyway.
Yeah.
Never want to knock that 9 in strategy. That 9, oh man. It stands for 9 builds.
He's got at least 9 of them, you know? Oh, you're not wrong. Oh, as we do see the Reaper trying to slip into the main base, but TooDming is there to deny him. We can see that TooDming's third base may have been denied and delayed, sorry, but he didn't really, oh, as he does snipe that Reaper, but he didn't really, like, take advantage of that and try to go into, like, a 2-base variation of, like, a Roach push or anything like that. He didn't throw down any early tag.
Yeah, just nice and standard economic. A nice standard economic game is what we're getting.
Oh, exactly. Nothing too crazy from either player. We do see that Cloak Banshee on the way for Spirit. Again, pretty standard opener here going into that 3cc. Banshee, it is kind of what we expect to be seeing in these longer macro meta form TVZs. So again, if you're a Terran player out there and if you want to maybe learn how to play standard, Spirit is a really good player to kind of take notes from and to follow.
Yeah. Only we had access to replays. But overall, you know, just watching this game, this is as standard as you can really get in a TVZ, really. Hellions coming out, gonna try to clear up creep wherever they can, but now that we have a couple of Cloaked Banshees thrown into the mix, I'm keeping my eye out for a potential Armory.
Yeah, and I guess my eyes are also on TooDming, because when I think of TooDming, I think of him as being maybe a little bit more of a aggressive player, as we see the Hellions dipping in, getting a little bit of damage, and not a single Hellion goes down. But I expected him to be the one to be a little bit more aggressive in this series overall, in this best of 2. But so far, I'm, I guess, surprised and impressed that he is attempting to keep up with the macro of Spirit here. There's no shenanigans, there's no early Bathing Nest, no like 2-base Muta, no Roach War, and it's just also straight up play from our Zerg.
Yeah, and we'll see if he's going to be able to keep this going, because of course, while Spirit might not be the most aggressive early game Terran player in a TVC, he is still gearing up for that stim timing.
There we go. Stim is on the way. We've got our production ramping up as well. Third base is being taken. As the Hellions distract the Queens, the Banshees are now moving out on the map as well to head towards some of those fringe bases and try and punish some of the economy. Again, this isn't designed to do an insane amount of damage. It's just designed to keep TooDming in check and, you know, to find damage if it's available.
And damage is, well, there are definitely opportunities for damage, so it's going to be on TooDming to really defend against them. Spirit coming in with the multi-prong, Hellions dipping in, so are the Banshees, but thankfully, we already have a couple of Spore Crawlers. Look at that.
Yeah, we got those Spore Crawlers. We know we can still one-shot drones. 2 drones going to be going down. We're targeting down the Queen as well, and only a single Queen is going to be focused down.
Yeah, unfortunately, the rest of the Queens, I think, were a little distracted by those Hellions. A couple more drones will get targeted down, but here comes another round of Queens to defend.
Yeah, the Queens do force those Banshees back at the same time. Because the Queens are busy dealing with the Banshees, that creates an opening for these Hellions, and a lot of creep doomers are being cleaned up here outside that third base. And TooDming can't really do too much about it. But, you know, it's only 5 drone kills. It's not the biggest of deals. I say that. TooDming's drone count isn't really where we want it to be at this stage of the game.
Yeah, 62 drones is fine for... I mean, it's fine for a lot of situations, but considering how heavily TooDming invested in his economy, trying to go for more of a macro opening, this isn't as greedy as it could be.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of this does come down to the workers that he's been losing. Like, he lost 3 drones earlier, he lost 5 drones here to the Banshees, so that has been slowing him down, that has been impacting his play so far. Meanwhile, ooh, he doesn't have eyes on the army. He's going for a massive Ling counterattack as Spirit is pushing across the map.
And a wall is not a wall, as the Lings slip on in and is going to be able to completely disrupt the economy of Spirit. We're in a bit of a pseudo base trade right now.
Yeah, a lot of SCVs are going to be going down. The Hellions and the Marines are forced to turn around as well. Spirit wants to hit a timing with 1-1 with his upgrades, but alas, that is not going to happen. 8 SCVs full. Not a lot of economic damage, but this did buy TooDming a lot of time.
And that's really the most important thing here. TooDming was staring down death, knocking down his door. Spirit had a tank and a massive amount of Marines. There weren't too many Lings. There weren't any Banelings at home to defend either. That could and arguably should have been the kill move here for Spirit, but instead, our game's going to continue.
Yeah, again, that was a very sharp, crisp timing with 1-1, and now TooDming is about to finish his own 1-1, so he's going to be catching up with those upgrades as well. He's going to be able to keep up with the complexity or the strength of the army of Spirit. He's setting up a massive Baneling run by here on the left-hand side, and if you saw those changelings, he also sees the army positioning of, or saw the army positioning of Spirit, so he knows now is not the time to go in, but at any moment, he could pull the trigger.
Yeah. We also saw the massive drop being set up towards the north, and we should be seeing a bit of a response to that. Spirit once again going for some trademark multi-prong harasses.
Yeah, there we go. We've got that drop on the right-hand side. We have a push towards the left as well with those Hellbats, and that is going to force TooDming to react and respond. He's going to be losing a lot of creep already. He does have an army waiting in the main base, so TooDming is keeping up for the most part here. But Spirit is just looking to set up here, looking to set up for a later push as he's actually pushing in towards that mineral line.
Ooh. Yeah, and these Hellbats are looking to cause a lot of trouble here. Drones are starting to really stack on up. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, 5th base just got denied, and so many transferring workers were caught. Nice little targeting coming out from Spirit as well, catching a couple of Banelings before being forced to lift up.
Yeah, it's one of those things that even though TooDming was ready in the main base, he wasn't ready at his 5th base, and that was a kill, not a cancel on the hatchery. He's keeping up with a lot of the drops, but the damage was still done. 9 drones did go down, and I love this. The carpet bombing of these Marines, trading so efficiently.
A lot of them will die, but, you know, that's a sacrifice that Spirit is willing to make. And he kind of has to make. You know, every wasted Baneling here, every lost Baneling here is wasted gas right now for TooDming, and considering he doesn't have that many workers, at least not for this stage of the game, that's really going to start eating into his income.
I mean, we've hit a point that we rarely see here in TVZ where Spirit is ahead in workers, and not even by a little bit. He's got 90 SCVs compared to the 71 drones of TooDming. Like, TooDming's economy is not high whatsoever. He doesn't have a gas bank, as you were saying. If he trades a little bit too inefficiently, he's not going to be able to remax.
Yeah, he finds a little bit of an opportunity right now. A lot of Banelings will crash into that planetary fortress, taking it down. 33 SCVs have just gone down. I was about to say, like, having 90 SCVs is illegal, and so I'm glad TooDming was able to catch that and put a stop to it. But because of that, like you said, he spent his entire bank, and now, okay, actually is able to deal with the counter drop decently.
Yeah, this was very necessary damage here for TooDming because he was falling further and further behind economically. He had to do something across the map. Killing 37 SCVs is definitely one thing. It wasn't just that. He also killed the planetary as well. And now Spirit is on the back foot. His drop across the map is doing a lot of damage. That's the second time that 5th base has been killed. But he needs more damage.
Yeah, it wasn't a cancel once again. I don't want to say that TooDming has the advantage here, but like you said, he made the necessary steps that he needed. Ugh, that's a mouthful. He is still back in this game. Things are still up in the air. It's no longer Spirit favored.
Yeah, exactly. He is coming back here in this. Meanwhile, we have a massive wraparound. The tanks that were caught on siege for a moment. Nice use of that drop, though, cutting off those Banelings. Oh my god.
Yeah, kind of baiting them a little bit into crashing into Marauders. That was only 2 Marauders as well, and they are still standing. Spirit is starting to really overwhelm TooDming here with his bio army. He's got plenty of Marauders on the way to tank any Baneling shots, and this seems like way too much momentum here for old mate Piotr.
I love this. The Marauder drop, that is the drop designed to kill tech, to kill hatcheries. The spawning pool is going to be going down. He's going for the Baneliness as well, and he's going to get it.
That is the entire backbone of the Zerg army completely taken out. It's going to take a long time to remake that spawning pool and to remake that Baneling nest on top of that. And this is time that Spirit is not willing to give. He knows he has that advantage, and he is pressing it.
Exactly. We can only make Hydras right now to defend, and TooDming doesn't want to waste his resources on Hydras of all things. There we go. Vipers are on the way as well, but TooDming cannot make Lings. He cannot make Banelings. He has no option right now. I think this is just it.
It's always so funny to see Marauders kill Zerglings, but that's exactly what's happening. GG is called, and Spirit will take game number 1 and the first map for SLT.
SLT. GG. Very powerful game there at Spirit. We saw things were looking a little bit shaky for him when TooDming went for the run by and the counter attack as well, where he was able to kill an insane amount of SCVs and that planetary. But TooDming wasn't ready for that counter attack. He was kind of set up for it, but there was a little move that you did catch as well, Yaku, when there was that engagement in the middle of the map when he was trying to catch those tanks on siege, and when he lost all of his Banelings to 2 Marauders. He didn't even kill the Marauders. They lived. It was crazy.
They lived. That's the power of Medivacs. That was... yeah, that's just... yeah, I mean, how else can we really describe it? The Banelings were, without a doubt, the most important unit that you can get here. It's the most important unit for Zerg in general when you're up against a Terran Bio army. And to just get it deleted and to not have it do anything, you're pretty much boned for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I mean, things escalated very quickly from there, because if you remember, it was right after that fight where Spirit immediately pushed, killed the 3rd base, and then lifted up and sent those Marauders into the main to snipe the tech as well. Like, things happened very quickly there, and that's what happens, you know, in StarCraft. Move, yeah. Like,
it was very quick decision there from
very
Spirit.
Little...
Reflects that 9 in
and
strategy.
You just don't... You're really focusing on that 9 in strategy. I love it. Every time you want to bring it up.
That was the only number I caught in Spirit's card. I was like, oh yeah,
you're like, mate, that's the only 9 I saw. Okay, that's all I know, puppy. Just let me have this. Oh,
I don't know what's bigger or smaller than 9. I just know 9. Anyway, that was Spirit over in the bottom left, and here we got TooDming. Very quick intros.
There you go, mate. There you go. We do have our players. We're getting into game 2. As a reminder, this is a best of 2, and it is a loser's pick. So TooDming's map of choice is going to be Royal Blood here. An interesting map, a little bit larger than Dragon Scales. Dragon Scales can be a little bit more compact and a little bit more difficult to keep up with all these, with like how aggressive the Terran player can be. Instead, this time, TooDming is going to have a little bit more room.
Yeah, plenty more room, not just when it comes to defending, but also when it comes to expanding. It's a map that has plenty more bases, but on the downside, after the 3rd base locations, either one of them, they do start to get pretty isolated.
Yeah, they really do, and I'm really curious to see how Spirit is going to approach this map, because there are a lot of Terran players out there that have attempted to kind of go into a split map scenario and cut Royal Blood in half to try and slow the game down to kind of compensate for how far away some of these bases are. I don't know if Spirit is that kind of player. Like, we saw him last game, as you kind of brought up. A very economic start to it, but Spirit was looking to hit these crisp timings. He wasn't able to hit all of them because of TooDming's aggression, but he was looking to.
Yeah. He's looking to match aggression with aggression a little bit. So, I have to imagine that's going to be a similar thing we're going to see, right? If it ain't broke, don't break it. But Spirit does have a 9 in strategy, so we can do a lot.
Spirit has that 9, and you know what? TooDming does not have that 9 inch. You're not wrong. You're not...
he has that for a reason.
This. Ay. Oh my god. Yeah. I mean, the one thing that I will say about that game number 1 is that I was quite impressed by TooDming. I think a lot of us, or at least I, was thinking of him to be more of a player going for like some all-ins here against Spirit to try to make up for that skill deficit. But for the most part, he was keeping up. It was really unfortunate that things, again, escalated very quickly when he lost those Banelings. But if it wasn't for that moment, like, he found himself in a pretty good position, like economically at least.
Yeah, things were looking pretty bad after TooDming lost, I think, something like 9 workers when he lost his 5th base for the first time, but going in for that massive counterattack to kill 37 SCVs and knock Spirit down to
Mhm.
3 bases. That put him back on equal footing, and that things, like you said, were looking up for him. And fortunately, Spirit went fully aggressive. He went for a lot of multi-prong attacks, and eventually he just needed TooDming to slip up once. And slip up once was what happened with those Banelings.
Yeah, he slipped up once and then he kept slipping. He just kept slipping, kept sliding all the way down, and Spirit took advantage of that. So, yeah, I'm sure Spirit doesn't have to change too much about his approach here, and it's going to be on TooDming that we're going to keep our eyes on instead, because you're right, like, he was having a hard time keeping up with all the drop play overall. Like, Spirit was finding damage over time, as Spirit, once again, it goes for a much more economic opener, just like game number 1, going for that 3CC before Starport into Banshees.
Yeah, Banshees and Hellions once again. TooDming, so far also keeping to the same, singing the same tune for now. 3 bases, grab Ling speed, but don't make any big tech commitments just yet.
Yeah, and I think the big thing as well is that we did see that TooDming's scouting overlord did get sniped before he got into the main base by that Marine. So because that he is in the dark, he's not too sure if it's going to be Bio or Mech as a follow-up. And Spirit has shown that he can play Mech in the past. So yeah, TooDming is going to have to be a little bit more vigilant with his scouting, just to make sure that he's not going to get caught off guard by anything like that. I mean, we can see that it's Bio, we can see Stim, but TooDming can't.
Yeah, you never really know, especially when you have that barracks lifted at the start. Interesting adjustment here from Spirit. He is actually grabbing a Liberator after his initial Banshee.
Oh. Yeah, very good to point out here is that Spirit didn't get Cloak. He isn't getting a second Banshee. He's going straight for that Liberator instead.
Yeah, initially I was thinking misclick, question mark, but like you said, there's no Cloak. So he's actually sticking to this. It'll be interesting to see if he decides to use the Liberator for support, if he tries to go for any big pushes into the mineral lines of TooDming, or if he's going to go for even more multi-prong.
I mean, what's already a little bit scary is that this one lone Banshee on its own, without Cloak, without the support of a second Banshee, already gets 6 drone kills, and it's still alive as well, hidden in the top right-hand corner of the map. That's already an insane amount of damage, and the damage is not done because that Liberator is on the way. Meanwhile, TooDming is switching gears entirely. Did get a lair at an appropriate time, but no Evo Chambers, going straight for that Spire.
And TooDming is doing everything he can right now to prevent a scout here from Spirit, but Spirit does see it anyway as he slips into that mineral line. He finds no drones. Okay, he finds a couple of drones, but he finds something even more important. The Liberator did decide to go for more multi-prong, and that's 11 drones going down to the triple prong assault here of Spirit.
Yeah, the tri-prong assault
earlier.
Yeah, exactly. The 6 drones earlier, plus these 11, plus the scout on the Spire as well. Couldn't even get, doesn't quite get the Queen in the end, but is getting all these tumors. Spirit is pulling TooDming apart, and Spirit has scouted everything he needs to see.
If you're Spirit right now, you gotta be feeling comfortable. You gotta be feeling even more comfortable as these Hellions roast what remains of this third base mineral line. Literally every single drone. That's 32 in
15.
total. This this pleases me as a Terran player.
That's a lot of drones getting roasted. 15 drones, that's basically a mineral line going down as well to those Hellions. Was it a little wasteful to throw them away? A little bit, but they more than paid for themselves. Well worth it here for Spirits, and we all know that the Hellions eventually over time do kind of run out of longevity, or they do run out of usefulness. They do get scaled out over time. Mutas are on the way, but we don't have the economy to make that many of them.
Yeah, only 12 of them in total. You could argue that the Hellions, you want them for map control, but Spirit already has an army out on the map. He's gonna have the map control whether or not he kept those Hellions alive. TooDming being very conservative and very patient with his Mutalisk. He needs to be right now. They were very expensive, and it's really the only way he's going to be able to chase this back. Unless Spirit decides to back away.
Yeah, Spirit, he doesn't want to throw anything away. He's not feeling too confident about his push, so he will back off for the time being here. He's going to work on a bit of a later timing 2-2 just just now begins as well for Spirit. And he's content to just kind of wait, receive, and maybe hope to catch some of these mutas.
Yeah. Interesting, interesting switching of gears here coming out from Spirit. I was completely expecting him to at least try to take out that third base, but like you said, he's playing a bit more conservative today for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's possible that he thought maybe he didn't have enough Marines, because we did have a decent amount of mutas overall, and if the Marines did go down, then the mutas would clean up the tanks as well. So Spirit just wants to make sure that he secures this victory. He's got doors on the way, he's got drilling claws as well, transitioning out of tanks into Widow Mines. That muta cloud is quite large. Is Spirit going to be ready for these mutas in his main?
Oh, I don't think he's noticed. He's got a couple of safety turrets, but I don't think it's going to be enough. However, because those mutas are in the main, they aren't here in the front lines. And Spirit, now he's aware of this. Now he knows. It's too late for him to try to turn around. He's going to have to try to chase these mutas away with Thors and whatnot while he presses the attack.
Yeah, and as we saw, because we rushed into mutas, we had to sacrifice other things. Not just upgrades, but also bailing speed. Bailing speed is still not done. Without it, there's no way to engage that Marine army. 2-2 is on the horizon, and Spirit, he can just push in if he wants to. The mutas are coming back, but there are so many Marines.
This is a beautiful spread here from Spirit. Not just making sure that all of his tanks are covered in case of the Mutalisk, but also making sure that no Banelings are really going to be able to get any efficient trades here.
Yeah, exactly. The Spire is going to be under threat as well. The mutas are going to be able to pick off a group of these Marines at least, but they can't really do too much to that main army, and eventually the reinforcements are going to push out across the map. Spirit, he's keeping his Thors back at home, but once Spirit maxes out, there's going to be nothing stopping him from staying at home.
Speaking of maxing out, 200.
Let's go, Bobby. 2-2 is done. 200 supply. It looks like one tank. Ooh, two tanks going to be going down. Nice pickups here by TooDming.
Yeah, meanwhile, the Banelings are looking to crash into these Marines, but they were fighting off of creep. There was a decent enough Widowmine connection, and Spirit had just enough time to split up his forces. Plus 2-2 versus
that was the reinforcements. You're not wrong. We do have 0-0 for the Lingbane. Yeah, it's a brutal fight, to be fair. Spirit, his reinforcements go across the map. It looks like TooDming is sending everything he has across the map for a massive counterattack. He knows that he cannot engage the army. He's going to get a lot of SCV kills, but he's not going to stop the tide of Marines.
Yeah, we are in full base trade city, and I don't think TooDming is going to be coming out better.
Yeah, it's really his only win condition, right? I think we both agree that he can't fight the main army. Like, he can't really engage with all these Marines and all these Thors. Oh my god!
That was such a massive, tiny explosion here in the main base of Spirit, but it is going to be enough to take out the Mutalisk. GG is called, and Spirit will win his series, giving SLT a very comfortable lead.
Yo, Spirit wants to go back to bed. He's
he is hoping that Cham can play an ace match if need be.
He's got places to be, mate. No smile, no nothing. He quickly 2-0s and he just dips the hell out of there. GG. But yeah, as we saw in that game, rushing into mutas like that is a really risky thing to do because your muta control has to be impeccable, and I feel like a lot of it does also rely on keeping that Spire hidden for as long as possible as well. Without that, we can see that your Terran opponent can prepare so well for them, and the mutas didn't really do much of anything. Like, we expect them to harass and do a lot of economic damage, but that didn't happen until the end of the game.
That Spire placement coming out from TooDming, I feel just kind of indicates that Spirit got into his head a little bit, you know? Spirit, in game number 1, multi-pronged a lot. In game number 2, he also came in with his Banshee and kind of said, okay, I'm going to try to dip into your natural and your main base as well. I'm going to be able to scout no matter what. So TooDming took a little bit of a risk there with his Spire placement, but yeah, because of that, it became easier to scout it with the Hellions. And once you scout the Spire, you have a lot of time to prepare, especially if you're able to cripple your Zerg opponent's economy like Spirit was.
Exactly. Like the economy, the gas mining is so important when you're rushing into mutas like that. Like you're investing so heavily into them. And if you do get disrupted and if you do slip up on the way, then it's really difficult to pull off, as we saw. So very well done there by Spirit, by Piotr for taking the 2-0. Very solid performance. And yeah, very good start here for Starlight Twinkle.
Yeah. A very, very, yeah, really, really strong lead going into the rest of the series. It's kind of difficult to... I think it is kind of difficult to predict how this series in general is going to go. SLT has an advantage, but I don't think anybody's really going to be sleeping on SSLT.
True. True, Papi, true. SSLT, you know, they still have some powerful players, and one of them is going to be stepping up here. Silky, arguably the best Zerg player in all of China, is going to be coming out against JoliwaLoves. And this is one of the criticisms that we have a little bit of Starlight Twinkle. They have really strong foreigners in Spirit and Cham, but both JoliwaLoves and Rewhite, they have to really pick things up here if they want to, you know, pull their weight in their team to kind of support Cham and Spirit as best they can.
Yeah, they are more up and coming players compared to Cham and Spirit, who I feel recently they themselves were also up and coming players, but in the past year or so have become more of established names in not just in their region, but in the entire, you know, non-Korean scene in general. JoliwaLoves and Rewhite, though, they are still trying to make a name for themselves in the, well, I guess now it's the Asia region, but, you know, specifically in the Chinese scene.
Yeah, I think we would both agree that in the Chinese scene, Rewhite and JoliwaLoves, they're kind of in the middle of the pack, you know? They're kind of like, they're good players, and they can spike up every now and then, and they can take maps or even series off of the more established players like Jeshi or Firefly or Maxed, but they're not favorites, and because of that, they do have to come in as prepared as possible. We have seen, like, sparks of brilliance out of Joliwa and out of Rewhite, but we're going to need to see that here and now here as they're going up against their countrymen. I do think that this is going to be a much closer best of two compared to the last one.
I think they're disrespecting my boy Silky here. The best Zerg player in China is a D? A D?
D? D? Mate.
Mate. You're lucky I'm not your dad,
Silky
I would. I don't think...
Oh my god. I agree. You know, Silky, I think he deserves a little bit more praise here. You know, he has been around for a long time. He has a legacy behind him. He has been competing for a while, but he also did take a break. He took a bit of a hiatus a couple of years ago, to be fair. So he hasn't been as active, but he has returned to the game. And he has been showing off quite some impressive results as well. So yeah, they have given him more points than Joliwa, but, you know, I give him at least a C, you know? Mate,
yeah, my God. just round up that grade, you know?
Yeah, give him a solid 6-0, you know?
Yeah. Like, what can we bump up here for? What can we bump up here for our players? That's defense for Silky, really. Because I think I kind of agree with everything else. Maybe defense or macro. I will bump up a bit.
I was gonna say that he deserves a little bit of mentality after taking down his counterpart.
True.
Right? Like
after winning the Silky
he absorbed
War.
the brain. Yeah, winning the Silky Wars, I think, deserves some praise. So, yeah, off of that, you know, Silky, apparently they're saying that his mental is lower than that of Joliwa's, which is interesting. Don't really know how they're getting that, but I'm sure in the Chinese scene they may be a little bit more familiar with the personalities of the players. I'm sure.
Yeah. They probably heard him rant a bit one too many times about how he beat NA Silky, and they're like, I'm bumping you down.
True. And as we get into this, I want to give a special shout out as well to Babylings in the chat for the raid of 43. Thank you so much for the raid. You just missed out on our first best of two between TooDming and Spirits, but you're here just in time for our second best of two, Joliwa versus Silky.
in the two players who, like Chad is pointing out, have probably played against each other plenty and plenty and plenty
True.
of times.
Yeah.
But now it actually matters.
I'm sure it mattered before, but
Yeah.
like all of that other stuff didn't matter.
Yeah, you know that one time when
Dream-
JoliwaLoves knocked Silky out from the qualifiers? Nah.
Yeah, mate. It's not important.
That
What's
time
important is
Silky
what's happening on the
Prevented
CranKy
Joliwa
networks.
from getting into DreamHack. We did cast that. That doesn't count.
Oh my god. Ay. But yeah, I'm sure they're very familiar with each other. I feel like they're doing Silky dirty as well, because the way that they're portraying his stats make it look like he's a cheesy player. Like they've given him a lot of offense and micro, but not macro. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like Silky can go to the late game. I feel like we've seen that before in some of the other matchups.
Oh, we've definitely seen Silky go to the late game. I want to say against Blue Ming. Blue Ming in one of the DreamHack qualifiers, he showed a very solid, but also very long late game style.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I love what's happening in the chat. Everyone asks who JoliwaLoves, but not why JoliwaLoves. Oh.
Well, he's just got a lot of it, you know.
He's got a lot of love.
He wants to give it.
Yeah.
Wait, hold up. People are asking who JoliwaLoves?
Who JoliwaLoves?
Jadong.
Yeah,
And
I was
Oz.
gonna say the same thing. For those who don't know, JoliwaLoves has some alternate IDs, and one of them is J Dong Oz. So yeah, we know who he loves.
Yeah.
The Dong, the Dong.
Well, he also has Blind Zest, if I'm remembering that right. Has another alternate ID.
Yeah. He's got Zest in there as well.
He's just got a lot of
Oz.
love, you know.
Jaime.
Probably, yeah.
I'm looking at his Wikipedia page, and one of his IDs is Jamie, but without the I.
James?
It's Jaime. Yeah, Jamie, yeah.
Without the S or the I, so it's neither Jaime or James.
There you go. But yeah, the players are just conducting
singular James.
just one James, just one. There you go. The one true Jaime. Oh god. But yeah, our players are just, I guess, getting ready for their game, just getting the lobby set up, making sure that there's no issues here, maybe getting some of those Uber Eats. Apologize for the small delay that we're getting here, but I'm sure once we start, we don't stop.
Yeah, we're gonna jump straight into it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You're just gonna keep on going. Before you know it, the love's gonna end.
Okay, and speaking of, I also feel like this is a pretty important match here for the Starving Camels as well, just because they had a rough start going up against Piotr, and I feel like Cham is also favored. Like, Silky is really going to be the one to lead the charge here for the Camels and start to get some momentum for them and, you know, put some points on the board.
Well, just because it was a 2-0 coming out from Spirit in the first round, tying up our next two series is not going to be enough for our Starving Camels. So I definitely agree with you, Lad. Well, I think Firefly can take a map off of Cham. I do think Cham is going to be favored, so at best that's probably going to be a 1-1. I might be surprised, who knows? So yeah, I definitely think it's going to be on Silky right now to really take the 2-0 against JoliwaLoves, which I think is possible, but apparently according to these stats, they're pretty close together.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the predictions as well, no one believed in the 2-0 from JoliwaLoves, so maybe Silky can pull it through as we get into game in the bottom right-hand corner for Starlight Twinkle, JoliwaLoves.
And over here in the top left, I get on the map spot again, Red Zerg Silky for SSLT.
SSLT?
This yeah. Here's a side note, but I just noticed that the camel is no longer eating a cactus.
Yeah, we should have brought it up, but the Starving Camels from 2022 into 2023, maybe they got like a grape sponsorship, but they're eating well.
Yeah, they found a vinery somewhere.
They did.
Called Vine.
So shout out to the Shout out to the camels.
Nick,
They brought back the vine,
yeah.
the vines even, and yeah, it's good
What's
to
it
see
gonna
the
be
camel
next
eat.
season? Yeah, I would love if they just alternate what the camel eats
Mm.
every season. Like next season it's a mango, the season after that maybe a taco.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there are many Chinese viewers in the chat, but if there is like a story, if there's like lore behind the camel and why it is now eating grapes instead of the cactus from before, let us know. Let us know, because I'm sure there's a story
Oh,
behind it. I'm sure.
it's traveling the world. That's my headcanon.
Uh-huh. It's in Europe right now. It's in Greece.
Yeah. Or wherever it is that
Okay.
grapes grow.
Oh god. Regardless, we are of course getting into our second series, and so far nothing too crazy. Again, when I think of Joliwa, from what limited games we have seen from him, he doesn't seem too much of an early game aggression kind of player. I believe we have seen some two-base all-ins, but you know, when it comes to any kind of all-in variation, it is typically off of two bases, not one.
Yeah, he's not the type of player who goes out guns blazing. Gonna try and go for any proxy hatcheries or anything like that. Silky likes to get his comfortable enough two-base economy before he starts flooding in with lings.
Yeah, there we go, and we'll see how this does turn out. We do see a Stargate opening here from JoliwaLoves. As to be expected, a standard opener here from our Protoss player is going to confirm the timing of that third hatchery as well. Everything is looking quite normal from the side of Silky and Joliwa.
A bit too normal. What's his probe up to, you know? You never really know. Oh, just scouting. Oh, okay.
Probes are very sinister. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
You look behind those beep boops they make, yeah, nothing but evil.
Yeah. I think as a Zergan Terra player, we can both agree on that. They are menaces to society, these goddamn probes. As we do have an Oracle opener as well, so no Void Ray or Phoenix or anything too crazy here. We should be seeing the Oracle, we should be seeing a second, we should be seeing a third base on the way soon as well. So again, Joliwa just going for a standard game here against Silky.
Which isn't the worst idea in the world, you know? Try to suss out how Silky is feeling today, whether we're seeing late game Silky or early game aggressive Silky. We do have a lot of lings making their way across the map, but he is still droning behind all of this, so he's not all in by any means. It's not too committed.
Yeah, exactly. We have those drones. Lings are going to be here across the map just to delay that third base at least a little bit. They do force the activation of that pulsar beam as well, as that stalker was baited out by that magnet, by that overlord. So not the best use of energy so far. And yeah, Silky's doing a great job of being annoying.
Yeah, just delaying the third base for as long as possible. And like you said, he forces the oracles to be kept at home, waste a little bit of energy, but more importantly, it's not taking out any drones, it's not scouting the fact that Silky went for a third base.
Yeah, exactly. So, unfortunately, these oracles haven't been the most useful here for Joliwa. I mean, at least he gets his third base up and running, but I'm sure he would have liked to have dealt some economic damage across the map. They're now moving out, but it feels like there's not too many opportunities. Oh, they're going to catch at least some transferring workers, though.
Yeah, a little bit of damage. We'll scout the Baneling Nest, knows exactly what Silky's going to go for. And so Joliwa is looking to respond in kind. Forge on the way. Going to be finishing up around the same time as at Twilight Council. The Robo Facility is what I'm really curious about.
Yeah, that's a pretty fast robo, actually. Typically, we do prioritize additional gateways first for +1 and for Blink, but with a faster robo, we could be seeing a faster Prism alongside that, or there have been some Protoss players like Classic and Hero that have been playing around with faster bays, and there we go, immediately robo. Oh my god, that's a bay and a second robo at the same time.
Disruptors or Colossus, what is it gonna be? But yeah, this
regardless,
is...
that's...
Hmm?
I was gonna say, regardless, that's a lot of tech being thrown down.
Yeah, it's very expensive. I'm not sure if 3 bases is even gonna be enough here.
Oh boy, but before that happens, we do have a bailing run by, and they waddle on in. The boys are pulled into them in some way. Can they get out? Oh god, they just barely do.
Oh, Stalker's here to save the day as usual. The banelings do get expended, and they will take out a probe and a Stalker, but at the end of the day, not too much beyond that. JoliwaLoves gets a little bit of lost mining time, but it's not the biggest of deals.
Yeah, exactly. As we have confirmation, it is not going to be into disruptors. We have Colossi on the way, 2 at a time. So a very defensive variation of this Blink Stalker style. We have seen a lot of players just being hyper aggressive and just in the face of the Zerg player with Blink Stalkers with +1 with the Prism. But with this kind of variation, it is much more defensive. We're waiting for that critical mass of 4 Colossi, and then we can go into disruptors.
Oh, which all things considered probably isn't a bad idea here. JoliwaLoves, I think, knows how aggressive Silky can be and how aggressive Silky wants to be, so if you can just shut down a couple of timing pushes from him, he'll be in a really, really comfortable position to counterattack.
Yeah, and I mean, so far, Joliwa has been trading pretty efficiently. Like, we've seen now 2 different Ling Bane run-bys not really do too much damage. Like, the probe count has been remaining pretty healthy overall, and Silky hasn't really been able to get too much done. His drone count is looking okay, but the probe count of Joliwa hasn't really been touched.
Yeah, which is definitely concerning. Silky recognizes that he has the map control, so he is going for a 5th base, but I feel like the fact that he's not being greedier than this really signals that he wants to get damage done with his links and whatnot, rather than just trying to out-economy JoliwaLoves.
Yeah, and Jolly was reading this so well. He didn't even see the Hydroden, and he wasn't really sure how committed the Ling Bane was going to be from Silky, but because Silky isn't incorporating any Roaches or Ravagers, like, this faster Colossus is going to work so well for Joliwa. Colossi, they melt Lings, they melt Banes, and they also melt Hydras. Everything light-oriented, so yeah, this is going to be a scary push.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
It's all the units you make.
They kill me, Papi. They kill me. Yeah. You're not wrong.
Speaking from experience.
And here we go. The 4 Colossi are moving out. This is spotted and confirmed by Silky, so he's going to have some time to respond. We already have Lings and Banelings on the way, and we don't have an observer here with the army, so the creep isn't quite being cleaned up.
Yeah, but you know what? Everything else is. Banelings are unfortunately gonna go down before they even pop, and now we have 4 Colossus with thermal ants. Even a full-on surround is gonna be difficult, and Silky is not able to get even that. A couple of the Colossus are starting to get targeted down by the Hydralisk, but that's not gonna be enough.
I mean, only 1 Colossi went down. A massive stasis trap going off behind the army as well, and Joliwa just keeps on pushing forward. I was concerned he could do with some sentries right now. Sentries would be amazing with their force fields, but he doesn't even need it. The juggling with the Colossus could just be too much. Ooh.
Yeah, we see all the Banelings crash, and a couple of Colossus are going down. Silky has finally cleaned this up, but it definitely cost him. Take out 3 Colossus? Sure, that's a bit of a blow to JoliwaLoves, and wait, actually, I just realized JoliwaLoves is still on 3 bases. That was actually a very expensive loss.
And he's pretty all in with this push, and you can see Joliwa shaking his head as well because he overextended. He was doing such a great job keeping those Colossi alive and pushing forward, but then when the stasis trap ran out, we had a massive surround, and that was exactly the engagement that Silky was looking for, and Joliwa, he just doesn't have too much more longevity with this army.
Yeah, I think you really nailed it there, Light. That was absolutely an all-in, and while he did do pretty well and he was able to take out 18 drones, not being able to kill the base just means that Silky has a lot of larva to still rebuild his economy, and he has rebuilt his economy. He's caught back up, and now he's got a lot of spare larva to make army units. JoliwaLoves doesn't have a lot of resources to remake his very high-tech army.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we still don't have a 4th base. It looks like now he's getting ready for one, but this 4th base is so late from JoliwaLoves. He's forced to expand aggressively towards his opponent, and now Silky has all the map control in the world. He's setting up a Ling Bane run by towards the south. His main army's towards the north as well. He just has all the freedom to do whatever he wants, and Joliwa is stuck at home trying to expand.
Trying, and Not really succeeding, unfortunately. Silky's doing such a good job of being annoying here with his overlords and with his Ling Bane. Nice cleanup here. Definitely could have been a lot worse over there for JoliwaLoves. In the end, he only loses 5 probes.
Exactly. I was really worried the mineral line was going to go down, but no,
Yeah.
Joliwa, he handles that quite well, to be honest. He's back up to 4 Colossi. He has a 5th Colossus that just came out, but he's pushing on to creep into all this Ling Bane. Up!
He is able to kite decently well. 1 Colossus goes down, but he's got the bulk of his army, the backbone of this army, still remaining. This is a very, very weak unit composition from Silky, to be honest, but it seems like he may just have enough.
Yeah, the second wave of Banelings rolls on in. 2 Colossi go down. Only 2 Colossi are remaining. And GG gets called. Silky, popping off there as well. You can see that he was so under a little bit of pressure. Yeah, he does take the first game.
Yeah, and I can't say I blame him too much, you know. He knows that he has to win this series 2-0. And he knows that he almost died in that game. That push from JoliwaLoves with 4 Colossus would have been the perfect move if he was getting a 4th base behind that. But unfortunately for him and fortunately for Silky, that was a bit of an all-in, and Silky was able to recover.
Yeah, like, again, if only Joliwa had maybe taken it a little bit slower after he broke the first army, you know, just respecting the Ling Bane that was coming out of that stasis as well. The surround was, I feel like, pretty crucial for Silky in that moment. If it was that, or maybe if Joliwa just had a couple of sentries. We talk about it all the time, but when a Zerg player has a ground-focused army without Roach Ravager, you know, force fields can work wonders in this matchup, and they can really make or break a fight for Protoss.
I agree. I just heard a lot of speaking about the ZVP, and I'm like, do I know this? Which unit is that? Right, Oracle. Wait, which one is Oracle? Oh yeah, it's the Protoss Banshee. Got it.
Papi, I only know man with gun. Okay, that's all.
Raven. Yeah, like, wait, which one is the Raven? Oh, it's the one that doesn't have gun. Okay.
There you go. Regardless, GG, well played. Silky does take the first game, but that wasn't the easiest game. Like that 4 Colossi timing from Joliwa was looking pretty scary, and I think you could see it in the camera as well, where he was like, oh, like, if I had just done a couple things differently, I maybe could have won the game. I maybe could have done it, and well, that's gonna feel a little bit good as well. Like it was within his grasp, you know.
Yeah, well, that's where the mental or the mentality comes in. So you can see for JoliwaLoves, he has been given that little bit of advantage, and I definitely agree. He has the map pick, he's decided to go for Babylon, and I think if he just makes a few adjustments to his build, I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to take this 1-1. But here we go, in the bottom right corner of the map, representing Starlight Twinkle, SSLT, JoliwaLoves.
And spawning in the top left-hand corner for SSLT, the Starving Camels, Silky.
So,
and you could see in that little bit of a celebration moment as well, Silky, the pressure maybe a little bit off him now. You know, the hard part is over. He's taken a game off of Joliwa already.
I feel for JoliwaLoves here. The contrast between his face in game number 1 and game number 2, that's oof.
Are you trying to say he should be losing some mental points? Is that what you're saying? Is that?
I'm saying SC boy, keep this in mind for when you do the rankings next season, you know? Nah, but I can't say I blame him. Like you said, he almost won that game. He almost won game number 1, and he knows that he was on the verge of victory, and there are really only 2 ways to go from there, right? It's either, oh, I almost won, or I almost won. So I can't say I blame JoliwaLoves here, you know?
True. And hopefully he's able to keep it together here for game number 2. I want to believe that he can bring it back. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see that 4 Colossi timing again. I feel like that's kind of like a one and done sort of thing in a series. Now that it's been revealed to Silky, I don't think it's the wisest choice to do that 2 games in a row.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you on that one. And honestly, my eyes were a little bit more on Silky to try to switch things up here. We do know him as being more of an aggressive player, and he did try to be aggressive in game number 1 with his Lingbane run-bys and whatnot, but I'm really expecting something a little bit more different to come out of him. Like making 10 links.
Speaking of something different, mate, I think it's going to... We'll see. I'm feeling more than 10 links. 10 links at this stage of the game is pretty suspect already. We've only droned up to 19, bear that in mind, and we've seen these 19 link VODs before. Demi loves them. He does them all the time in OSC King of the Hill, and we'll keep an eye on the production tab to see if he stops making workers.
Well, 2 more okay, 1 drone. But it's only 1 drone. Haha.
It's only 1 drone, but there we go. We're droning up a little bit more. The Lings are going across the map. They're going to be able to bypass this first Adept, and they're going to be looking to get some damage done at the natural.
Yeah, This is so unfortunate that Silky decided this is going to be the game for him to drone up. Because that wall is not a wall. Everything's getting depowered right now, except for the Stargate back in the main base, but even then, you know, JoliwaLoves doesn't really have a lot of resources to make much of anything. A couple of Lings slip into that main mineral line as well, and they are really This is the only
they're going to surround on this. Yeah, that's it.
Man.
GG gets called. Oh. The celebration.
Ooh! The celebration coming out from Silky, man. Gotta feel a little bit bad for JoliwaLoves there, but this was such an important match for Silky. This 2-0 is what makes this series still competitive and is exactly... Yeah. And it's what's gonna make our final series the deciding factor of whether SLT wins or SSLT wins. Or if we get an ace.
Exactly. How many S's do we need here? That is the question. Is 2 S's too many, or is 1 S just enough? And a very powerful way to end it here from Silky. Again, he was doing a great job at keeping his extra Lings hidden from the probe and from the Adept. They were going around the long way around the map, and unfortunately, JoliwaLoves was caught with his pants down, got his Stalker surrounded, didn't have a shield battery, just wasn't anticipating those Lings whatsoever. It wasn't a lot of Lings, it was 10 Lings in total, but it was enough to end the game then and there.
Yeah, for a second I was going to say, the one game where JoliwaLoves doesn't have his Stargate as part of his wall is the one time Silky decides to drone up, but then it turns out Silky knows JoliwaLoves a lot better than I do. He knew that he could get away with just running up, because apparently 10, 12 links is all you need. It's all you need.
Yeah. Oh, so a brutal way to end the best of 2, but as you were saying, a very necessary win here for Silky. Because of that, 2 zeros across the board for both teams. That means it is going to come down to this last series here. If either Cham or Firefly go 2-0, then that's going to be the end of the series. If it's 1-1, then this goes to the ace match.
Oh boy, and who would you like to see in the ace match, Light?
That's a good question here. That's a good question. If we get an ace match, that means Cham versus Firefly. In that scenario, it would be a 1-1. If that's the case, I think Spirit would have to be the call for the ace player, if that were to happen.
I think I'd like to see...
Because you're implying that Cham would lose.
Wait, what? Oh, right.
An ace match would imply that Cham would lose a game.
Right. Because, yeah. Because Spirit will be the one with the most wins. Yeah. I'd like to see JoliwaLoves versus TooDming. That's what I'd like to see.
God damn it, Yaku. All right, here we go. It is going to be that ZVP here, Latino America going up against China.
Yeah.
Cham rocking up with those big arms.
Representation. They are big. Yo, shout out to SLT for actually, even though our players don't have their jerseys yet, for actually having updated photos.
True, true. Yeah, that is a new photo that we've seen from Cham. We were still lacking those jerseys, but you know? Cham's this is looking pretty swole, mate. Looking pretty swole.
Yeah.
I'm getting some dark
like he's gonna be taking on. Yeah, he looks like he could take on Juanito.
Oh, we need that. We need a Mexican wrestling show match between Juanito and Cham. That would be amazing. Oh, oil them up.
With Jim Rising as the
commentator, the announcer,
commentator, the ref. That's what it is. And then eventually, you know, when eventually he gets fed up, he rips up his suit and he jumps into the ring himself.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. We need to make that happen as we're going to be getting ready for game 1, and this is a brutal game 1 actually. Altitude is going to be coming out first. That is not any other players' map picks. That is predetermined, and that is going to make for an interesting ZVP. Yeah,
I don't know any Zerg player or any Protoss player. Maybe a few Protoss players who like Altitude, but even still, it's not necessarily a map that I think anyone really favors. That's a pretty common veto nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah, amongst all races, Altitude is typically vetoed. There are some key players that allow it to go through. I think of like Spirit, I think of Gumiho. There are some like macro fiends that do want to play on Altitude, but not a lot of players do. So this is going to lead into an interesting one, and it does kind of favor certain play styles as well. ZVP is going to be an odd one though, because it can also favor Skytoss, which is definitely something that Zergs don't want to deal with.
Yeah, I think we've witnessed quite a bit of it in the previous few. It's making a little bit of a comeback, surprisingly. Skytoss and PvZ. Some would argue it never really left, but...
Yeah, it's still like the late game to go for. Hero still goes Skytoss whenever he can against Dark, which is always smooch to see. But he does do it. He does whip it out from time to time. But we'll see if the game lasts that long. The other thing, as I bring up Skytoss, this does kind of lean towards Muta play as well. Mutas can do quite well on Altitude just because of how large it is and how much room there is to maneuver around. But it's a little bit more unorthodox to see Mutas too much in ZVP. But Cham isn't the most standard player. I think that's why it's always fun to watch Cham, because he has his own kind of like twist to things. He has his own playstyle.
Without a doubt. It's really difficult to pin him down in any, or put him in any sort of category as to whether, as to what build or what style he's going to go for at any given time. He is, out of all of the NA players, one of the most, probably the most unpredictable.
There you go. I agree. I think he is very unpredictable in a lot of the matchups. Meanwhile, I love this in the chat because we were comparing Cham to Dark, but does he have the harness? That's the difference between Dark and every other players. That's what makes him stand above among everyone else, and that is his
I thought it was the beard, but no, it's the harness actually. Yeah.
It's a little bit of both. A little bit of both. Yeah.
Hey, goatee.
That's where his power comes from. Can confirm. He's like Thor, but without a hammer. He has the harness instead.
And with that, we're going to be jumping into Altitude in the bottom left-hand corner, representing Starlight Twinkle, Cham.
And in the top right-hand corner of Altitude for SSLT, it is Firefly. Oh, wait! He's growing the goatee!
He's looking to become the next Thor. I mean, Dark. He's gonna inherit the harness.
I need to message him. Mate, you're missing something in your Dark cosplay. You need the harness, Papi. You need it. It's like, what for? I'm like, you'll know when you get it. You know what to use it for. It's okay.
I was gonna go into a whole thing of like, does the harness decide who's worthy? And apparently, yeah.
Oh. It's tossed down from pro player to pro player.
Yeah. We'll see. If Cham wins this, I think he'll prove himself worthy for the harness.
Oh, God. There's people watching right now that didn't watch WTL last night, and they're like, "The hell are they talking about?" Aye, aye, aye.
You know, the harness. You put
Don't
it
worry
on.
about it. Just watch the VOD from last night. It won't make sense, but you'll understand why we're talking about it. Aye, aye, aye. Well,
They need to
as
update
we get
his-
into the
They need to
ZVP,
update his picture. SLT does.
they
They may have just
Oh,
updated
they
it,
do.
but they need to update it again.
True, Poppy, true. Here we go as we are getting into our ZVP. So far, nothing too crazy other than the fact that we are on altitude. We were alluding to it earlier, but we weren't really going into any specifics. For those who don't know, altitude is the largest map in the map pool. The bases, there are many of them, and they are all spread out as well. Because of that, it can lean towards late game scenarios, but it can also be really difficult to defend and hold on to these fringe bases just because of how large it is.
Yeah, there are a lot of isolated bases here on altitude. Even the linear third base, I would say, is a little bit far off compared to the triangle third. So we have seen a few players in the past decide, you know what? I'm on the largest map in the map pool. Let's end this as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, that does happen from time to time. We have seen some roach pushes and roach timings on altitude as well, just to make sure they don't end up in that late game scenario. So we'll see what Cham has in store for our Protoss player. Meanwhile, Firefly is no joke. We were talking about up-and-coming players in the Chinese scene, and that's Rewhite, that's Joliwa. Meanwhile, Firefly is one of the more established players. He's up there alongside your Jeshi, alongside your Max, and alongside your Cyan. Firefly has proven himself to be a pretty formidable force in China.
Yeah, I was honestly taken a little bit aback when I saw that Firefly was the highest ranked player from SSLT tonight, but when I look back and I think of how active Firefly has been recently and how well he's been able to perform in the past couple of years, I can't say I disagree.
Oh, yeah, I can't say that either, as we have an interesting transition here. So we have our Stargate opener, sure, but we're delaying the third. The third Nexus should be down by now. It is not thrown down. Instead, we're prioritizing tech, and we don't have a Forge on the way.
Instead, we have a little bit of a proxy pylon. We have a Twilight Council and a lot of gateways being thrown down.
Yeah, Firefly is not looking for a late game. He's looking to end things here and now. There we go. 5 gates thrown down. 6 in total. 6 gates all in from Firefly, and it's going to be Glaives.
This is what I like about Firefly. He does not play around.
He can be decisive. He can be aggressive. So far, the Oracle's doing a great job at keeping Cham busy back at home. A couple of drones are going to be going down, but Cham hasn't scouted yet. He needs to somehow get into the main base. He needs to realize that it is not safe to drone anything but. He has to be careful not to drone up too heavily over that 45 worker count. If he does, he's not going to have an army large enough to deal with all these adepts.
Well, the problem is, Cham's just completely in the dark. I think he scouted the triangular third, but he's only now slowly making his way to that linear third to confirm that, wait a minute, where's your third?
A Bailey Nest is thrown down, a layer is on the way. He's still droning as well. He's up against a 2-base all-in, and Cham still doesn't really know. He now confirms the lack of third, and that should be ringing some alarm bells, but the Adepts, it may just be too late.
What's the level above ringing here, Light? The alarm bells are being smashed as all of these Adepts rock up. And they're going to be able to take out a couple of drones. They're going to be able to kill queens as they are isolated. A lot of energy was spent spreading creep and injecting as well, so there's a very limited amount of transfuses available.
Yeah. And this is already game-ending damage. 12 drones have already gone down. The Bailey Nest is still on the way, so it's only Lings and Queens to defend. No roaches whatsoever, so there is honestly no answer to these Adepts.
Yeah, Banelings without speed, man. They're just begging to be sniped before they can really connect. Before they can really connect with anything. Cham finally lower in when it comes to the worker count, and it's going to continue getting lower.
Yeah, and again, this was a very well hidden two-base all-in from Firefly. It started with the Stargate, then very quickly shifted gears into mass gateways. Cham had no idea what was happening. Again, because there's altitude, because it's so large, it's that much harder to scout as well. The third base is going to be going down. The pre-split as well from Firefly.
I don't know if you caught that, Light, but it was just a little bit of a smile from Firefly as that third base went down. He is pleased with how this build has gone.
Oh... No Spore in the main. The Oracle goes back in and it finishes off every single one of those drones. Cham just doesn't have enough right now. He's got some Banelings, but again, the splits are too damn good. Firefly is just not allowing those Banelings to connect on more than 2 Adepts.
And that's just not going to be enough. We have a massive amount of Adepts here. The final wave coming through, and this is Cham's last stand. 2 Queens, GG is called. And Firefly takes a very important game number 1.
Oh, GG, well played, Firefly. You can see he's trying to hold in that smile. He's trying to keep it hidden there. But a very cheeky 2-base all-in from Firefly. Very nicely kind of prepared build on Altitude. I do think that's something that you can only get away on a map like Altitude. So very nicely done. Cham, as you were saying, maybe too much in the dark.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh. Inherited a little bit too much there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, very, very well executed from Firefly, but like you said, it's just a very clever build as well. Nobody expects a massive switch into Glaives after seeing an Oracle fly across the map. I think most of the players, when they see that initial Oracle, they just kind of assume, oh, okay, this is standard Protoss. They're going to be getting a third base after this. So Cham never really checked those bases, did he?
Yeah, it took him too long to realize that there was no third base, and by the time he did, it was already too late at that point. Firefly was already knocking down the front door, and now Cham is looking to fight back in this series. His map of choice is going to be Babylon.
How angry do you think he's going to look when we get the player cams up?
Oh, that's when he whips the harness out, mate.
Oh. That's when he uses it to whip him.
Yeah, I mean, oh my god. To Yaku. I was gonna say, I predict here on Babylon for Cham to wrap his harness around his Roach and ride across the map, because this is not a bad map for a Roach all-in, to be fair, or a Roach timing attack even. Yeah,
it's a very, very short rush distance map, Babylon, and I mean, we did see earlier today, Silky did go for a Roach all-in, but he was able to take out JoliwaLoves in less than 9 minutes with a Ling all-in. And speaking of all-ins, in the top left-hand corner of Babylon, we got Cham representing SSLT. Starlight Twinkle.
And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, representing the Starving Camels, it is Firefly.
Crunch in the grapes.
There you go, mate. There you go. So, Firefly has already done the bare minimum here for his team to force at least the ace match, but I'm sure he wants to do more than that. He wants to really exert himself here. He wants to establish himself as the more dominant player. Oh, and what's important is that in game 1, he didn't really show anything off, you know? It was like a prepared all-in that we're not going to see again. He's probably got more up his sleeve.
Yeah, and I do feel like that was a very map-specific build as well. It's based on the fact that altitude is so large that you're kind of counting on your opponent never being able to scout that proxy in general. On Babylon, though, you're a lot more limited.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's going to be harder to keep things hidden from the Zerg player on Babylon because it is much smaller compared to altitude, so Cham is going to have an easier time, and I'm sure that's why he did pick this map overall as his way of coming back. But we'll see how this turns out, because so far, nothing too crazy. Hatch gas pull from our Zerg player.
Yeah, they're just mining and twinkling.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. No camels, though.
Yeah, no, the camels are crunching. while they're mining. You know?
They are. So everything's looking normal here, but again, even if we see a Stargate opener, clearly we can't make any assumptions out of Firefly, and that's going to be something that's even going to be on Cham's mind, where he can't take things for granted, he can't make assumptions anymore. Game 1 really kind of set the tone for the series.
Yeah, I don't want to make any assumptions here, but I'm sure Cham and Firefly don't really play against each other too often. Cham was probably thinking, yes, he's clearly not going to be whipping anything out. I'm higher than him. I have a higher strategy score than him, according to SC Boy at the very least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Now, though,
and I'm sure.
Yeah, he's going to be a lot more diligent when it comes to scouting and a lot more vigilant as well.
Yeah, 100%, mate. 100%. And we'll see if that does come to pass. Already, Firefly does go for a Stargate opener. Interesting location for the Stargate. Typically, we do see the Stargate on the edge of the base, so the Oracle can get across the map faster. Here, Firefly is more concerned with hiding it and just keeping Cham guessing even further. Just once again, playing that mental game. Oh my god, and we see why.
That is neither a Void Ray that you would use for defense or to clear out Overlords, nor is it an Oracle that you would use to harass and get damage. That's a Phoenix, and I'm sure that's not going to be the only one.
Yeah, there we go. The first Phoenix comes out. That's going to hunt down this Overlord, and once again, Firefly is going to be just denying scouting information from Cham, keeping him in the dark, keeping him guessing, and playing with those mind games. Cham does see that an Oracle is coming up behind this, but what else from here is the question, you know? Like, what else is going to be coming at him from the Protoss?
Yeah, he's keeping all this in for a reason. We have a second Oracle so far, but I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if Firefly switches tech entirely from here on out.
Yeah, exactly. We do see a third base on the way here for Firefly as well. He's at least setting up to take a third, and I understand that Cham has the Lings on the way, so he's going to be a little bit more proactive when it comes to scouting. He needs to confirm whether or not a two-base all-in is on the way, because he doesn't know right now. He doesn't see, and he is going to catch these Adepts in the middle of the map.
Yeah, it forces a little bit of energy from the Oracles as well. Unfortunately, not quite able to get a full surround.
Yeah, but the Lings, they do bypass the Adepts in the end. They're looking to confirm that third base, and they will get eyes on the Nexus.
Yeah, might even get a little bit of a delay. Not if these Adepts have anything to say about it, though.
Oh yeah, the Adepts do fend them off. But again, at least Cham can rest easy. He can now feel safe enough to drone. But even though he's droning, are his workers safe? Because, oh, never mind. The Oracles are actually distracted by the Lings. The Lings are committing to an attack here at the natural. They do bring down the Adept, and they're looking to try and break down this wall.
And there's a secondary wall being set up, and not enough Lings to really overwhelm that. Cham forced to back away, but yeah, he's still keeping his eyes open for any opportunities.
Yeah, at least he's forcing a reaction out of Firefly here. He's forcing those Oracles to stay at home as well. I believe he gets eyes on all three of them. We're not stopping at 3, by the way. We have a 4th Oracle on the way.
That's fairly excessive, to say the least.
Oh. Yeah, because when you hit this amount of Oracles, you can ignore the Spore Crawlers. You can keep on going in, but no, we have... Oh, we don't punish! Oh!
Almost. That Oracle was almost punished for its greed, but in the end it was able to make it out with literally 1 health left. Just gonna go regen some shields and come back for round 2. Firefly continuing to harass. 6 drones have already gone down. And a lot of Overlords too.
Yeah, I believe that's the 3rd or the 4th Overlord that's going to be going down to this Phoenix. There we go. We have confirmation it is that 3rd Oracle. Sorry, 3rd Overlord. And interestingly enough, as we're getting into Ling Roach, we have an infestation bit already on the way here for Cham, as he's losing a lot of drones. Oh my god.
Yeah, roaches are being pumped out, but Cham, he's gonna have to spend some larva to rebuild his economy. 11 drones have gone down compared to only 1 probe from Firefly. Whatever Cham is planning to do, he needs to do it soon. Swarm hosts!
Let's go. This is what I was talking about when Cham, he's not the most standard player here. He does have his own twist of things. He has his own way of approaching some of these matchups, and Swarm Hosts are a great way to come back here. Even though Cham has sustained a lot of economic losses, Swarm Hosts can be very efficient units.
I was almost wondering if that was a token Swarm Host when I remembered, oh wait, it's Cham. He's obviously has something planned with this unit, and yeah, there's really not an easy way to deal with Locusts or even Swarm Hosts right now. Oracles are a really good way of dealing with Locusts, but not if they use all their energy to kill Lings.
Yeah, but I do worry here because Swarm Hosts, they do great against robo-based compositions. For the time being, we have a gateway-based army, and it's very mobile. We have Blink already finished up, and we have a lot of gateways on the way. So after the first Locust wave, Firefly, he's going to be able to counterattack, and Cham has to do the best he can to try and survive long enough for his second wave to become available.
Yeah, it's really going to become a bit of a sitting duck here. He's investing a lot into Roaches and Ravagers, which can definitely mitigate that a little bit. The Swarm Host gets scouted, and now it's Firefly's move.
Yeah, and here we go. They have been confirmed. We do see the first Locust wave is going across the map, but the Stalkers are in position. The Locusts are actually going to go toe-to-toe with the Stalkers, though.
They're gonna try, as they are very slow. These Stalkers blink back a little bit, and there's a shield battery available over there as well. And this is what we were talking about.
Biles?
The Biles Connective Oracles! That was a 10,000 IQ move coming up from Cham, baiting that out.
Yeah, exactly. Really impressive Biles there. The Locust Waves haven't done too much, but the Ling Roach Ravager is holding on here against the tide of Stalkers. We do have a couple of stage traps going off here, but not really the connections that we're looking for, and another Locust Wave is coming in!
Yeah, all these Lings and Roaches need to do is to hold the line, is to distract the Stalkers. Really good Stasis Ward, catching the majority of those Locusts, but that third base is still in a lot of trouble, and now so is this fourth. Oh my lord, these...
Yeah, the fourth is exposed. What's important, though, is that a lot of these Stalkers are going down to the Roaches here. Stalkers, they need to build up in number, but they're going down one after the other.
Yeah, a little bit of a miscalculation here from Firefly, trying to go toe-to-toe against all of these Roaches of Cham. The Creep Highway did finish up, and this is exactly why Cham picked Babylon to play map 2. He just reinforced so quickly.
Exactly. These Locust Waves over time has gotten value. The trades against the Stalkers have been insane as well because Firefly was forced to fight outside of range of his shield batteries and his overcharge, and Cham is about to max out. Firefly is struggling to hold on to his third.
Yeah, I'm liking this as well from Cham. He's splitting up his Locust Waves with using only half of his Swarm Host at a time. This means that he can just consistently and constantly send out wave after wave of Locusts. GG is called, and Cham will tie things up here for Starlight Twinkle, confirming us an ace match.
Oh, GG, well played. We do have that 1-1 in the end. Cham utilizing his Swarm Host quite well there, as he honestly loves Swarm Hosts. We see them a lot in his ZVT. We see him a decent amount in his ZVP as well. And yeah, even though it was spotted by Firefly, he wasn't able to really punish Cham in those moments of weakness when he didn't have those Locust Waves available. He had plenty of Roach Ravager and even Queen's Transfuse as well on the front lines.
Yeah, really well thought out here from Cham. It's a battle of the brains that we've seen in this particular CVP, and that was... Oh, okay. I thought they made a decision who to send out already. I was like, well, that was quick. But no, there is a little bit of consideration to be had here. I wouldn't be surprised, though, like, if Cham and Firefly decide that they want a rematch, just, you know, to prove that they're worthy of the harness.
Yeah, there we go. GG, well played. We have that ace match coming before us here. Are we going to have that rematch, or are we going to have something else? I'm just quickly sifting over some of these predictions, and it looks like, you know, Firefly was able to maybe even fight against the predictions of the people, because a lot of people believed in the Cham 2-0, but Firefly fighting back here for his team is going to force the ace match. Let's hear in the chat, who do we think is going to be sent out for both teams?
Who
do you think, Yaku?
My gut is saying Cham versus Firefly again.
Oh, you want the rematch?
Well, no, what I want is JoliwaLoves versus TooDming, but my gut feeling is saying we're getting the
Okay.
rematch.
You're like, my heart says Joliwa versus TooDming, but my head said, oh, sorry, my stomach
No,
says Cham versus
my
Firefly.
head is
Yeah.
saying whatchamacallit, Firefly versus Spirit. But I don't want
Mhm.
Firefly versus Spirit. That's a TBP.
That's that's fair, Poppy. That's fair. I think I agree with your head. I think Spirit makes the most sense if he's available. Remember though, when Spirit finished his series, he was quick to get the hell out of there. So we don't even
He
know if
turned
he's
his
available
webcam
right
off.
now. Yeah, he did. Boy, he
That's why
got
it's
the
Cham
hell
versus
out of there.
Firefly.
So. But yeah, I do think that Spirit versus Firefly would make the most sense here. We could see a wild card. I don't know if any of the Starving Camels maybe has a lot more faith in their versus Terran matchup. If that were the case, maybe Silky comes out, but that feels like a really risky decision.
Yeah. I was gonna say, well, they might be banking on Spirit being asleep and whatnot, but I think you're right. They know that this is a very important series to win. If you can get the victory here early on, you can start to really build some momentum for the rest of the season. So, yeah, I don't think they want to take that risk. The Camels, they love their memery, but they are still humans with brains at the end of the day.
I like it that you had to specify the fact that they had brains. I mean,
yeah.
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah. Good to bear that in mind. Yeah, so we'll see if we get any kind of a wild card here. As there we go. We have confirmation. It is the
It's a
logical
brain pick.
choice. Yeah.
Lame.
They're thinking with their
But
brains,
they gotta
not
listen
with
to
their
their
stomach.
brains. God damn.
Okay. shaking my head. And this is going to be a really close one because for those who maybe don't know, this is a best of one, not a best of two, not a best of three. It all comes down to one singular game on Babylon.
On Babylon. And of course, as we look into the stats here, Spirit is heavily favored. It's a B versus a C coming out here, but based on what we've seen in Firefly versus Cham, I wouldn't be surprised if Firefly specifically has something up his sleeve for Spirit specifically, if he knew he was going to have to be the sniper and the ace player.
Yeah, I think that's always something that these WTL teams they have in the back of their mind. Like, if we do go to the ace match, who's it going to be and who do we anticipate as well? And I feel like, again, the Firefly versus Spirit made the most sense. So Firefly, we saw him cheese already tonight against Cham. It wouldn't be surprising to see him have another all-in, because I do think that he's going to have to rely on that. Based on these stats and based off of what we know about these players, I do think that Spirit is favored in a longer macro game.
Yeah, and because we're on Babylon as well, I don't think Firefly wants the game to go on too long. As we saw in his series against TooDming, once Spirit starts building up some momentum, he just keeps that pain train going. And on a map with such a short rush distance like Babylon, it barely takes any time to reinforce.
You're not wrong, mate. You're not wrong. Things can escalate very quickly here on Babylon, and Firefly, he's going to have to bear that in mind when it comes to what strategy he wants to pick, whether he wants to go for a more aggressive opener, or say like 2-gate opener even, or going into faster Colossus, even going for an all-in. We'll see how this all turns out. Pretty interesting, though, that apparently they have the same mental and the same micro.
Interesting. In the bottom right-hand corner, a blue Terra player acing for SLT. Spirit.
And spawning in the top left-hand corner of Babylon for SSLT, Firefly.
I don't know where it went there with the intro for a sec. Salty, hey, yeah. It's like, I got to keep this going.
Like it.
It's short intros, hey,
Oh my god. Yeah. That's probably the biggest criticism that at least I have for WTL. It was worse last year. It was much worse last year. Last year it was like 2 seconds in and out.
I'm glad they listened to our specific feedback.
We filed a complaint to Sarutobi. Like, excuse me, we
Yep.
need longer intros, please. 'Cause
Yeah.
this is ridiculous. This is like half of our cast. Like, what's going on?
We need to pan around the bases for, like, the first minute or so. It built the atmosphere, is what it does.
It does. It does. I think it's quite important for that specifically. It's not to fill time. Not at all.
Yeah.
Not to worry about it. As we do see Spirit already.
Ready.
We are. And the storyline here is Spirit just throwing a wrench in the works to begin with, going for an NG block. Isn't forcing the unnatural natural. Firefly, thankfully, was able to get on top of it before it had too much progression on the build of that eBay.
Yeah, slight delay, but not the biggest that we have seen. Spirit, thankfully, was able to get a little bit of a refund by canceling that, and now we're, gonna get into our early game.
And speaking of the early game, again, this is very Spirit-esque. He is going for a single gas opener. He's going for a Rax Expand, which, again, we have seen much more aggressive kind of meta in TVP recently with double gas openers, but Spirit is clearly above that and wants to be a little bit more economic instead.
Yeah, again, throughout the entire night, Spirit has just been playing fairly conservatively. He's even finishing up a bunker right now, so he's taking this ace match very, very seriously. He wants to be able to defend against any aggression that Firefly potentially throws his way.
And speaking of aggression, he also confirms the tech. He goes in, gets a full scout, a full lap of the main base, and sees that there is no Stargate. It is a Twilight Council opener instead.
Things are nice and normal. And once that was scouted, you can tell Spirit it wasn't too pleased. You can see it in his face. He's like, "You woke me up for this." Ugh. To play the ace match.
I mean, at least it's not. At least it's not Phoenix Colossus, you know.
Yeah.
At least it's not.
That, I think, would have just forced him to turn the cam off. Yeah, immediately.
There you go. There you go. Mate. The smudge would have begun, but yeah, again, he's aware that the Blink Stalkers are going to be looking to gain map control here, and he's getting ready for that. We have the 1-1-1 follow up, actually more of a 2-1-1. He's got that second Rax already on the way as well.
Yes, standard Terran things. Gonna be building up a bio army. Most likely gonna go for a bio push, like we saw against TooDming, but that also depends a lot on what Spirit is able to scout and whether or not he likes his chances of being able to take out a base.
Yeah, the other interesting thing here from Spirit is that he is not going to be going for a more standard Widowmine drop opener, you know? There's no medevac, he's going straight for that Raven instead. He's using his factory just for add-ons to go for more bio production, so as you were kind of alluding to, a very bio-heavy, bio-centric composition.
Yeah, this is definitely always a risk from Spirit, not going for the drop, because it's not really the damage you're looking for there, it's that follow-up scout, right? It's to make sure that you really know what your Protoss opponent is going for. They're not trying to juke you or whatnot, but Spirit kind of correctly has assessed that Firefly just wants to stick with a gateway army for the time being.
And we can see that because Spirit didn't go for a drop and because he didn't follow up scout the main base, he's being very safe here. We have a turret on the way in the natural, so in case it was a DT opener, and again, he didn't stick around to see the research on the Twilight Council, so in case it was DTs, he is ready for that as well.
Yeah. Now, the question now for Spirit, I think, is going to be, will he throw down that third base, and if so, when? Because right now, I'm seeing a lot of men with gun on the production tab light, and not a lot of SCVs.
Yeah, here we go. The first Raven gets across the map, and probes are going to be being... Oh, no reaction, by the way! Firefly, asleep at the wheel! Oh.
Yeah, just like that, 5 probes go down. Firefly a little bit preoccupied, trying to go across the map with all of these stalkers. I'll see if he's able to get anything. This is a much better position for an auto turret, by the way. 9 probes go down. Firefly has to reciprocate.
Yeah, but he's gonna blink up into the main, and there are Marauders. That was the other thing that I was about to bring up, is that we had Marauder production here, so this is gonna be a very heavy, a very powerful bio army waiting for him. There's no tanks, but there's more than enough man with gun.
That one poor stalker unable to blink out. Stim, very well positioned from Spirit, by the way, was his tech lab. Stim now is about to finish up. Combat Shield finishes up, and now it's time for the counter push.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Firefly, his economy is not what it needs to be. He's losing Stalkers one after the other. We do have some decent blinks, though, keeping them alive. But again, this buy push is scary. Stim and Combat Shields is done.
That little juggle with the Marauder, that's just Spirit. He's styling a little bit.
Third order turret into the main base. The shield battery at the third is not done. We have a couple of force fields, but these Marauders don't give a damn about your force fields. They're pushing on forward anyway. It looks like the overcharge will come into play.
Yeah, that force field bought just enough time for Firefly to get this overcharge ready, but look at the amount of damage this Bio Army is able to dish out. Battery overcharge is barely making a difference.
Yeah, that's the power of the Marauder. Even though there was an overcharge, the Stalkers were still dying. GG gets called, and Spirit takes the ace match here for his team for Starlight Twinkle.
And he still wasn't too impressed there right at the end. He looked up at the webcam for a second, just thought, really? I'm going back to bench.
He just... It's the weekend, you know, waking up early on a Sunday is not, or on a Saturday even, is not something that people want to do, so I don't blame him. GG though, well played Spirit with a very solid gameplay there. Nothing too fancy out of Spirit, but did hit a very strong time with Stim and Combat Shields. Was attempted to be slowed down by those Stalkers, but it just was not enough. Firefly just a couple too many blunders in that ace match.
Yeah, he definitely seemed a little bit tunnel vision there. He was banking everything, his entire attention, on trying to blink into the main base with his Stalkers, and like you said, because of that, he ended up losing a decent number of probes, but because of how safe Spirit was playing, I mean, there was no way those Stalkers were gonna make a difference, right?
Yeah, I think maybe just a mistake there from Firefly was blinking into the main. We saw he didn't really get any damage. He actually lost Stalkers. He lost shields as well, and that meant that he lost more Stalkers on the retreat back home. So just misjudging the situation a little bit there. And with that, Starlight Twinkle take the first series, but we're going to be going on a bit of a short break. When we return, we have our second matchup of the night.
Yeah, enjoy the ads. They're going to be played in the break. That makes me miss Hojo so much. They always had a different ad every week. And we could never figure out what service or product they were selling. Because it just kept changing the ad. And we're like,